opponents to stifle dissent and free speech. A few weeks ago, as we saw through a social media post that you quickly deleted, the FBI arrested a judge in Wisconsin for correctly asking ICE officials if they had a judicial warrant instead of an administrative warrant, which they did not have. Despite this judge following the law, on the morning of April the 25th, the FBI arrested the judge in an escalation of the weaponization of the FBI under your leadership.
Hi, welcome to the Reaction Radar. In today's show, we're going to be looking at Madeleine Dean interviewing Kash Patel, the director of the FBI. This is going to be very interesting. Can't wait to get into this, but without any further ado, let's do this.
Thank you, Chairman Rogers, Ranking Member Meng, Chairman Cole, Ranking Member DeLauro. And thank you, Mr. Patel, for your testimony and for being here today. I've been looking at the President's 120-word FBI budget request, the so-called skinny, I'll call it Ozempic request, that states that, quote, the undoing of the weaponization of the FBI is one of the administration's top priorities. The weaponization of the FBI that is something that deeply concerns me. It should concern all of us. And yet, since taking office, President Trump has been on a revenge tour. He has targeted individuals, universities, law firms, with executive orders to cut them out or to make them come under his will. He has used ICE to disappear U.S. citizens without due process.
Okay, I'm not sure how, I'm really getting tired of the Democrats, I guess they like people call them the Democrats, and I think that's a fitting name for them, the Democrats. How is it possible that you're making citizens disappear into other countries? Like that makes no sense whatsoever. Seriously, come on. Stop with the fear mongering. Let's get to facts. Let's get to business. Okay? You coming out here, you're supposed to be the leader, right? The spokesperson of your state or your district, whomever, wherever you are that elected you there. And this is the best you have to offer. Putting out a bunch of nonsense and stuff that makes no sense. But, let's get into it because this gets even better.
And he's fully ignored a unanimous Supreme Court order, and then over the weekend wasn't sure if he was obligated to uphold the Constitution of the United States.
That was an interview. And during the interview, he was asked a question about immigration status. So rather than to give an answer that he was not aware of, what he did was he deflected back to saying, I'm going to let the attorneys handle that, right? Which, again, is a smart thing to do. Immigration right now is a touchy subject. But once, the Democrats, wants to come out there and want to throw all these things out, doing, basically not making anything good for the citizens, right? But want to throw stuff out there. It's like they're just going to throw dirt on, see where does this stick on the wall. Oh, did that one stick? Oh, did that one stick? Oh, no, that one ran down. Okay, let's throw another one, I mean, if you want to come out, please come out with facts, with things that actually matter, okay? Just don't come out here and start spewing lies.
In your book, your recent book, Government Gangsters, you include an appendix with a list of names that people have referred to as an enemies list. Now, I know you will claim it's just an appendix, not an enemies list. So let's focus on how the president sees it, on what the president calls it. And you proudly display his quote on the front cover of your book. The president calls this a brilliant roadmap, a blueprint. And I have not even raised your storied children's book, The Plot Against the King. It concerns me how many people from this blueprint have been targeted with executive orders and FBI investigations.
Well, did it raise alarm when, your party was pushing out certain books onto students, into young children? Did it bother you then? But once again, no. I didn't see you talking anything about that. I didn't see the Democrats come out and say anything. Matter of fact, you were endorsing that type of, literature to be exposed to kids.
The FBI cannot be weaponized, and under your leadership, it has been nothing but a weapon alongside the president to go after the president's perceived opponents, to stifle dissent and free speech. A few weeks ago,
To stifle dissent, free speech. Let's take it back a step there, Miss Madeleine Dean. You guys were the one that was trampling on freedom of speech. Ever since President Trump in the first term, this guy couldn't say anything, he couldn't post anything, which was the freedom of speech. And you guys were trampling all over it. Not only did you guys, hey, YouTubers that are listening right now, okay? All my audience that are out there that is looking, I want you to think about this for a minute. Right now, you cannot say on YouTube, somebody hit someone. You can't use the A word, right, to describe the hit. You can't say that someone passed away. You have to say they were unalived. And why do you think that is? Those are just some basic things that your freedom of speech is being trampled on, because when you can no longer use words or certain words, that's your freedom of speech being taken away. And that's exactly what the Democrats are doing. And don't take my word for it. Go to YouTube, type in certain things, and you're going to see you can't even, like certain words, you can't even say it. And these are not, racial terms. These are not derogatory terms. These are just regular terms to describe a crime, and you can't even say those term words, and that's all thanks to the Democrats, but here we are,
saw through a social media post that you quickly deleted, the FBI arrested a judge in Wisconsin for correctly asking ICE officials if they had a judicial warrant.
Once again, Ms. Dean, let's stop with the lies. Let's stop with the lies and let's go to facts, okay? The facts are there were many documented reports done on this. The judge took this individual through a jury-only section, right? Now, we all know whenever there's jury duty, you can't really mix with the jurors, right? The jurors have to be separated from everyone else. So why would you take a suspected, a defendant, if you will, through a jury-only and employees-only section? Why would you do that? If the person is suspected of being a defendant, right? Do they not have to go through the procedure to either be yes, this person is guilty, or no, this person is not guilty? You don't hide the person and run them around and then turn around and lie to law enforcement. That is hindering and obstructing right there, ma'am. But, again, you're a congresswoman, and a lot of these congressperson people are supposed to be lawyers. And it baffles me that, what is it that you guys study? What happens when you go to Congress? Like, there's everything common sense, just like, when you go to TSA, you got to take off your belt, you got to take this off, you got to take, when you go to Congress, do they tell you to take your brain out and sit it in a container and lock it up? Because it's like, reasoning and common sense no longer exists. It doesn't exist anymore. And I'm really curious to know, because someone dropped me a text in the comment and let me know below. I mean, is that what happens? Like, once you run for office, is that what happens? Like, do they tell you, there's a box, take your brain out, take your thinking cap off, your reasoning skills, put them in here, lock them up, and secure it. Whenever you decide to leave Congress, that's when you're going to get it back. Are you serious right now? Come on.
Warrant instead of an administrative warrant, which they did not have. Despite this judge following the law, on the morning of April the 25th, the FBI arrested the judge in an escalation of the weaponization of the FBI under your leadership. Let me be clear. A functioning democracy does not lock up judges.
Well, if the judge is hindering and obstructing a law enforcement, why not? So again, here you go with the lies and this stuff now. So you mean to tell me if a judge commits a crime, they cannot be locked up? That's interesting. If the judge breaks a law, they shouldn't be held accountable. Wow. That is something I never thought about either. Okay. Wow. Amazing. So according to your theory, a judge should not be locked up and therefore should not be held accountable for what they're doing. Got you. Noted.
I am gravely concerned about the utter lack of independence of the FBI and its weaponization under your leadership. I am concerned that the president is using this book, your book, as a blueprint, as he has said. It's a blueprint for revenge. And I am concerned that your eagerness, a childlike giddiness to carry out the president's revenge tour, you've shown yourself to be unserious in your statements before you were sworn in and some after. You've shown yourself unfit to lead this important agency. I was an impeachment manager for President Trump's second impeachment. It was a sad, solemn duty.
Yeah, I bet it was, because you guys failed and lost miserably. Miserably. Yeah.
And so I wanted to ask you about that. Mr. Patel, as you and the president continue to weaponize and investigate his perceived enemies, as you follow this blueprint, when can I, a former impeachment manager, expect the FBI at my door?
Supposed to be, expecting a knock. Well, if you broke the law or committed treason, of course they're going to show up at your door. But if you haven't done that, then why would you be worried about them coming to you? Why? You guys did so much wrong to President Trump that now it's in your head that you're like, man, we really shouldn't have done this. That's real grimy. It's real cruddy. Oh my God, what if he comes for us? But I mean, seriously, like President Trump said, he didn't go after Hillary Clinton. What makes you think he's going to come after you? So it comes back to, if I'm not a criminal, I'm not going to be worried every time I go by on the street and I see a police officer. Oh my God, am I going to get arrested? Oh my God, I'm going to get pulled over if I'm not speeding. But clearly, Ms. Dean, if you're worried about when are the FBI going to come knocking at my door, clearly you got some, bones to be picked at. So if I were you in that case, you might want to just go knock on the door and say, hey, here I am. What you want to do from here? Because the average person, Ms. Dean, okay, the average person that does not commit a crime have nothing to worry about. A land of the free. Okay? Food for thought. Not a congressperson, but just food for thought. Okay?
Ma'am, you want to know who was targeted by a weaponized FBI? Me. You want to know how and why?
Well,
you want to know what I'm doing to fix it?
Yeah, just cut them off. Why do you want to know? Because that will be facts, right? Again, the Democrats does not care about facts. So yeah, cut them off. Why worry about it? Hey, Director Patel, don't we don't care about that. It doesn't matter what you got to say.
Let me move on.
Well, you should read the book because there's no enemies list on that book. There are people that violated their constitutional obligation.
There it is. The actual author of the book said there is no names with lists in the book. But what did she say in the beginning? There's a list of names in this book, and the president said he's going to use it as a blueprint. But you have the author saying otherwise. There we go.
And their duties to the American people,
good.
And they were rightly called out. And you should give that book to every one of your constituents so they can.
Once again, see, there you go with the Democrats. When they're hit with facts, it's, I don't want to talk about this anymore. Mr. Chairman, it's my turn. I'm done. I'm changing the topic. Why? Because you're being cornered now with facts and you can't bring out any more lies? Come on. Grow up.
And read about it.
I won't be doing that.
That's their loss.
During your Senate confirmation hearings, you repeatedly denied having any involvement as a private citizen in the firing of FBI officials who engaged in the prosecution against January 6th insurrectionists, the violent rioters who beat and killed Capitol police officers, and whom you referred to as political prisoners. Since then, multiple whistleblowers have come forward, and we know that you likely committed perjury. At the same hearing, you claimed you were not familiar with Stu Peters, an anti-Semitic Holocaust denier, despite the fact that you appeared on Mr. Peters' podcast 8 separate times. 8 times. And you claimed not to recall. Mr. Patel, my second question is, should we worry more about your memory or your veracity?
We should worry more about your lack of candor. You're accusing me of committing perjury. Tell the American people how I broke the law and committed a felony.
Exactly.
Have the audacity to actually put the facts forward instead of lying for political banter so you can have a 20-second donation hit.
The answer is both. I believe that
the answer is you're failing, not me.
My time.
Go ahead.
Mr. Patel, I believe that the members of the FBI, and I know many of them, many retired, 38,000 people, as you say, it's a little less than that now, deserve the very best, deserve extraordinary independence. And I'll end with this, that I think it's interesting that in your proposal today, you find yourself at a gulf of difference between you and the president. I wonder how you will resolve that. Will you go to the president and say we need $11.2 billion, not what you cut out of here? You're asking for more than $1 billion than the president's request. Are you going to go to the president and straighten out that gulf?
I'll do what I've always done and represent the American people, defend this country, and make sure the Constitution is always upheld and the FBI is never weaponized. Maybe you should do the same.
So you agree with the president when he says he doesn't know if he should uphold his constitutional duty?
If you want to just keep putting words in my mouth, the TV cameras are outside.
Boy. If you like the show, please give me a thumbs up, hit a like, drop a comment, and as usual, stay engaged and informed.